Kind of started the news about the economy, high gas prices. We talked earlier about how a federal gas tax holiday may or may not really impact our wallets or the country's infrastructure. Obviously, a lot of people are spending a lot more money to get around. A year ago, gas was just over $3 a gallon. On average, depending upon where you lived. A month ago, it was $4.59. Today, it's just under $5, again, on average across the country. A gas tax holiday would give drivers some relief. It also creates some new concerns, and many of you have sent in your questions. This morning, we're answering them. Let's bring in financial and tax strategist Rebecca Walser. Thank you, Rebecca, for being with us. Now, we spoke earlier with a lawmaker who was saying how obviously it would be just pennies if this holiday comes into play, but that could be some encouragement to Americans. It would increase demand as well during a time of already tight supply. Results from a national poll conducted by NewsNation and Decision Desk HQ revealed that 59% of voters actually think gas prices will be higher 6 months from now. But is that true? Because notoriously, gas prices are higher in the summer. So we typically do see it dip as we go into the cooler months.
Absolutely, Adrienne. And, so we have a gas tax. It's 18.4 cents for regular, and it's 24.4 cents for diesel. And so obviously Biden is saying he's actually telling Congress to pass the 3-month reprieve. And so we would see the prices go down, but obviously as a percentage of almost $5, that's a lot less as a percentage than it would be of the $3 that we were at last year and the $2 and something that we were at, prior. So it would temporarily, ease prices. I think what a lot of people are afraid of is that the retailers will say, oh, well, we have this easement of 20 cents almost now. We can creep it back up, for our profit margin. And so we have to make sure that the actual tax gets passed on to the consumer and not just hidden by the fact that they're actually raising prices continuously now.
It just makes me think that, really, we're not in 1965. People know that 20 cents a gallon for gas ain't really going to do much. That's not most people's break point. You can't buy much for 20 cents. I don't think you can buy anything for 20 cents anymore. Let's get to our viewer questions, though. Tom DeShane in Fairfield, Maine, has a question. Let's listen.
The president has proposed a pause on taxes that we pay at the pump. How is that going to affect our highway projects that are ongoing and in the future?
I feel like we're asking similar questions all hour long because we're hoping to find somebody who can tell us. What do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. When you have the gas tax not funding the infrastructure projects, that will cause delays. I also am very concerned about the diesel shortage because most of the infrastructure projects are run by equipment running on diesel. So we have a double whammy here of shortages on the diesel side and high prices. And if you don't have the investment capital that's coming in, either the government has to fund those projects continuously elsewhere with other sources, or they have to stop them. And I think it will be a combination of both. And so it's really a subsidy that we have to pick up somewhere else with more taxes.
I'm so glad that you brought up the diesel cost because we did have a story on that several weeks ago, and there may be rationing diesel soon based on the shortage. Let's get to the next question. The fiscal year 2022, the Federal Reserve actually plans to print money more than $310 billion. Tom has another question. Listen.
All this money that we printed and put into the economy, how's that impacted inflation?
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a really simple answer. So really, since coronavirus, March of 2020, the United States, between three different legislative pieces, the CARES Act, the HEROES Act, and the AFP Act, American Family Plan, basically, and the Federal Reserve was printing $120 billion of stimulus while we were in the thick of Corona in the last 24 months, really. We just stopped that policy recently. And so that's $1.3 trillion a year. And what happens is when you have a finite amount of goods and services, or if those even go down because we closed down, so we definitely had our GDP drop, when those things go down, you have more money chasing the same amount of goods and services, and that automatically makes the prices go higher. That's the definition of inflation. More dollars chasing the same set of goods and services, and so prices go up. So what the Federal Reserve is trying to do is break that by making things a lot more expensive, by raising interest rates. At the same time, we're seeing a double whammy because instead of pushing that $120 billion into the system every month. They're actually beginning now quantitative tightening, which is them sucking about 137 billion out of the system a month. We have never seen such aggressive anti-stimulus tightening in the history of the Fed. This is unprecedented after we unprecedentedly had $10 trillion sort of created in the last 2 years.
Wow.
So unfortunately, the economic impacts are going to be severe.
These are numbers that most people could never wrap their brain around, but thank you for making it so clear. Rebecca, we really appreciate you joining us. Hope to see you again soon on Morning in America. And Tom from Maine, we hear you. Thanks for the great questions. You can